Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. Today's story is about revenge. OP's wife left him for a high school dropout affair partner who was broke as a joke. Now, OP is living his best life after he got a promotion at his job, and his wife is now begging for him to take her back. In today's second story, OP's girlfriend is begging for mercy after he kicked her out when finding out she still has feelings for her ex. Now, let's get into today's stories. I was with a girl for a year and a half. She fell head over heels for me while I wasn't even looking for any kind of a relationship. I approached the whole situation casually. But before anything even began, I told her not to expect anything serious from me because I was not the relationship type due to bad experiences in the past. But we kept seeing each other, and she kept pushing and pushing for a commitment. I really started to like her personality, silly me. After 3 months of fooling around, I decided to give the relationship a try. She was from a different town, about an hour away. But she would spend every weekend, holiday, and vacation with me at my place. When we met, I was a CEO and project leader of a company some other fellows and I tried to build from the ground up. But the owner, the boss, unfortunately wasn't able to secure enough funds for us to continue working on it, despite the fact that we were 2 to 3 months away from putting the product on the market. I'm from an area where jobs are really hard to come by. But nevertheless, I applied for everything I was qualified for. I didn't care, I just needed a job. I got quite a few interviews, but no luck actually securing a job. This went on for 6 months. Of course, the fact that I didn't have a job made us both a bit uneasy, but I really didn't get a feeling that it was affecting our relationship at all. At the beginning of this year, I had a meeting with my counselor at the unemployment bureau. She asked me if I wanted to attend some courses where they'd teach me to code. Without hesitation, I said yes. Not only would I be able to get a job, but I wouldn't need to worry about employment for the rest of my life. I applied, and a few days later, I found out that they accepted me. I don't know what their criteria was, but I knew that they didn't want to take just anyone, and I was ecstatic. But something was off. A few days prior, I started to notice her being kind of weird, cold, unattentive. I knew something was amiss. She was starting fights over nothing. I couldn't make sense of it at the time. In one of the arguments we had, I said, "Look, everything is going to be fine now. I'll learn to code, and after a few months, we'll be set for life." And she responded with something along the lines of, "Who cares? You're going to fail miserably anyways." That was weird, I said to myself, but I shrugged it off as her being in one of her bad mood swings. Didn't think much about it at the time. As you might have figured out by now, there was someone else in the picture. A week later, she dumped me for her co-worker, a high school dropout working a manufacturing job. I was beyond shook. I sat in my pain for the next 3 months. But then, it was high time for me to stop feeling sorry for myself, as I had started with my classes. I postponed the whole thing a bit, and I had a lot of work to do since I had never ever seen code before in my life. Now, mind you, these courses were Microsoft courses, and the exams we were studying for were Microsoft exams for which they only gave us 3 months of time, counting down from the last lecture of each course. So, I had my work cut out for me. These kinds of exams are usually taken by people who have a degree in computer science or at least employed programmers for the last few years. One day, I got home from my classes and opened my laptop. I read the book and did some exercises until like 1 a.m. I was drained, and the more I was looking into it, the less I understood. But at least I got started. I went to bed, tossing and turning, and thought to myself, what in the hell did I get myself into? I will never pass this stuff. Then, out of nowhere, I heard those words in the back of my head from when she was cheating on me with the other guy. Who cares? You're gonna fail miserably anyways. I lit up like a Christmas tree, got back up, and continued to code until 4 in the morning. Every time I was exhausted and about to lose it from all the new information, I remembered those words, and it was more than enough to keep me going. Today, my fellow betrayed, I passed the first Microsoft programming exam, and I have already been studying for the second one for the last 2 months, which I plan to take and pass as well. Like the title says, sometimes the much-needed motivation comes from a strange place. I just wanted to share this with people who can relate in some way to the story, as I haven't told anyone else yet. Update. It's been a little over a year since my first and last open topic on the subreddit. At this opportunity, I'd like to thank every single one of you for your support and your encouraging words. At the end of each year, I like to take some time for myself and look back on the year. Therefore, I decided to write another post to this community since it has been so helpful and encouraging to me in the past. Hopefully, it will inspire even one person going through the same turmoil and hurt I went through almost 2 years ago. So, what happened since my last post? I got my first software developer gig at the very beginning of the year. The very first company I sent my CV to decided to hire me. Not long after my original post, I started work in the beginning of January this year. My initial contract was only for 6 months, understandably. The company wanted to make sure that they didn't take on board a cat in the bag, and I was eager to start my career, so I took the job. They allowed me to work from home, although the offices were only a 3-minute drive from my place. I decided to make sure that I took full advantage of the opportunity in order to display to the whole world who I was and what I was capable. After about 3 months on the job, I was having a Skype call with the lead tech of the software we were developing. He was not a member of the company but was a private contractor. This guy was one of the most respected developers in the whole country and had been working for himself for the past decade. Toward the end of our conversation, he said, "Hey, do you work on any projects for yourself?" I responded with, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, I have a lot of clients, and they are all looking for software developers. You've got some real talent, so let me know if you're interested. I can recommend you to them." I said, "Well, not right now. I have a non-compete clause in my contract, but that contract will expire in the summer, and I can hopefully renegotiate with my company to take the clause out." He replied, "Do that and then notify me." Thus, at the end of 6 months, the CEO of the company called me. He said that they were ecstatic with my work ethic and my potential and that they would like to extend my contract. I said, "Sure, I'm interested." I mentioned that I wanted my non-compete clause out of my next contract, and he responded with, "Well, I'll have to check up with the owner first on that." He then proceeded to tell me the salary they were prepared to offer me in our new deal. I immediately knew I was worth more than that. In my mind, I was like, "You're absolutely insane if you think I will sign that." But I responded by saying, "I'll get back to you." I could hear in his voice that he was taken aback a bit by my response. But he said, "Okay, notify me after you think about it." I gave him a call a few days later, a day before my contract officially expired. We talked for a bit, and he said that the owner did not like the idea of me opening up my own software developing business, as they were scared that it would affect my focus in working their company. I said that I understood, but I knew that I wasn't backing down from that, as independent software developers were making a killing out there. Later that day, I responded to him with an email where I stated what kind of salary I wanted and that I wanted the non-compete clause out of the contract, and those terms were non-negotiable. The next day, the day my contract officially expired, I got a call from the owner. Within 15 minutes, he had agreed to all my terms. All I had to do was sign with them for an indefinite term. And at the very end of the conversation, the owner said, "Oh, and one more thing. You are not a software developer anymore. You are head of it. Development." I responded with, "Damn it, I should have asked for a higher salary." We both laughed, happy that we had reached an agreement. I accepted the offer and started contacting the companies the lead tech connected me with. Long story short, I finished this year with not only getting a job but becoming the head of the department at the company that hired me. And after my job, I am working for clients in the afternoon and evening that are working on projects for the state. Yes, you read all of that correctly. People admire me and respect me, and needless to say, money is the least of my worries nowadays. My monkey branching ex, as far as I know, she is still with the loser she dumped me for, struggling to make ends meet every month. If she had any concept of loyalty, she could have been a retired stay-at-home wife and mom by now, which she stated multiple times was her wish. I guess she would rather struggle for the rest of her life than support her man and wait another year and a half. Oh well, c'est la vie. Merry Christmas to every single one of you. If there is anything I want you to take from my update, it's that you should take that pain and hurt and turn it into a fire in your belly that will propel you to new heights and enable you to live a life you never even dreamed of. I know it is still pushing me to be even better and achieve even more every single day. OP, I'm glad to hear you are able to bounce back strong. The best revenge sometimes is bettering yourself. No hateful back and forth, no nuclear option. Just be the best you can be. I'm a true believer that you reap what you sow. Now, let's get into today's second story. Hello all, I wanted to share my story about my ex cheating on me. It kind of has a wholesome end to it. This was a tough one to deal with for a while, but time healed the wounds from it. Essentially, things felt like it was a happily ever after before she had to go away for a work trip and ended up with her ex. I will post the full story here too because it's still good for me to get this off my chest, even though a few years have passed now. So, I met my ex-girlfriend at a bar one night when we were out with groups of our friends. She and I hit it right off and exchanged numbers. Before long, we were texting regularly and became an item. Not long after that, I had dated a fair bit before her, but we really clicked. I actually had that feeling of the one for the first time ever. We had a ton in common, got along famously, had similar goals in life, and just really enjoyed each other's company. She had dated a fair bit before me too. When we got to the talks of exes, there was one that kept coming up. Let's call him Ethan. She talked about how she thought he was the one, but he was a dick to her, left her a couple of times, and wasn't very well liked by her family or friends. I could tell she had an infatuation with him as she had mentioned moving on, but he would always weasel his way back in. She assured me though that he was gone for good and that she had long blocked him everywhere. That gave me a sigh of relief. But deep down, I just had a feeling. Fast forward 9 months, things were going real well, and we were looking at getting our first apartment together. We were zeroing in on a couple of places and were getting ready to make offers. I already had my own place, and she was still with her parents but was practically living at my place at that point. We just wanted to get more space in a place that was truly ours. One day, she came home from work and said the craziest thing happened. Remember my ex Ethan? He got hired in the sales department of my company. My stomach dropped when I heard that. She worked in the operations department of her company, and I knew that they worked closely with sales for projects. She had started working there a few months prior, and I would like to think it was completely by chance, but you never know. I asked her if this would be a problem. She said no, she would be avoiding him, but also felt that time had passed and that they could be professional together. I did not have a good feeling about it, but she assured me it would be no issue and that if there was, she would look to move. That was when things started to change. At first, it was small things. She wouldn't want to meet for lunch as often. I used to hear from her throughout the day, and then it became an odd text here and there during the work days. But outside of work, everything was fine. We were still getting along. I didn't notice her more preoccupied with her phone. I never checked it or anything like that, and she was still coming and going at regular times. She just kept saying it was getting busy at work when I pressed about her not engaging as much during the day. Fair point. Then the big one came. She came home and told me that the company was flying her team, alongside sales and marketing, to their head office for a few days for specialized systems training. I asked if everyone on all teams were going, and she said yes. Subconsciously, I knew right then that it was over. I was trying to play it cool, but inside, I knew something might happen there. I still gave her the benefit of the doubt but told her I was concerned about them being away together. She assured me nothing would come of it and that she had barely spoken with him. It would be fine. On the day of the trip, I drove her to the airport. It wasn't a long flight, but she texted me when she landed, and we had a Skype call from her hotel room. She said she was going to dinner and for some drinks with the team later and that she would talk again before her day started. That was the last time I spoke with her for the entire trip. She texted me when she got to the restaurant, then it was radio silence for 3 whole days. I texted her asking how it was going, nothing. I tried calling and got her voicemail. I just said I wanted to see how it was going, nothing. She texted me once after 2 days that she was fine and just swamped, that she was tired when she finished up and would call me before she left. She didn't. On the day of her return home, I texted her saying that if she wanted me to pick her up from the airport, she needed to let me know, otherwise I wouldn't be there. I was so pissed at that point. I get things come up, and you get busy. But I just felt like something was going on deep down. I never heard from her. I finally texted her that I was going to be at my place and that it would be nice to see her when she got back. I tried to keep calm but just knew that something was up. A few hours went by, and then all of a sudden, the door opened. She came in and started saying how much she missed me. I asked her how she got back from the airport. She said, "A friend drove me here." I asked if it was Ethan, and she said, "Maybe." At that point, I was enraged but still kept calm with her. I told her I thought something happened between them while she was gone, and I wanted to know the truth right then. She kind of stared off blankly and then started crying. She said, "Yes, it did." She said at first it was good intentions and she had no plans to see him, but they got talking when the team was at the bar, and then one thing led to another, and she was back in his hotel room with him. She then said they pretty much had sex the entire time they were at the company head office, which is why I never heard from her. She tried to defend herself, saying that he was her one that got away and this provided her some closure. None of that made any sense to me. She then told me she got it out of her system and that it would not happen again. I told her that she was still working with the guy, so there was no way it was over. I told her it was over for us, though, and she had 24 hours to get her out of my place. She begged and pleaded to stay, but I wouldn't have it. She eventually left and within a month was officially dating her ex again. No surprise there. They actually seemed to make it work and got married not long after too. Good for them, happy ending, I suppose. It messed with me for a long time, and I had a hard time trusting people again. Eventually, I moved on too, and it was all for the best. OP, I'm glad you were able to overcome what happened. Your ex may have gone off to marry her affair partner, but I assure you that in a few years they will be divorced and she will come crawling back to you, wanting you to give her another chance. When she eventually does, you know what to do. Give her a trash bag while she's at the door and tell her she needs to take the trash out. I'm sure she will get the message. Thanks for taking the time to listen to today's stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's stories. If there's a story you'd like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. Take care, everyone.